Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Tableland Regional Council's July meeting. I'd like to also welcome our deputation guests today, Bob Peter and Rex Hutchinson. Do we have any apologies or leaves of absence? No? Okay, could I ask everyone to stand for both the acknowledgement of country and bereavement notices? I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we are meeting on and pay respect to their elders both past, present and emerging. Thank you. And if we remain standing, if we could just observe 1 minute silence as a mark of respect for those residents who had passed away during the previous month. Thank you very much. Item 5, do we have any declaration of any material personal interest, conflict of interest by councillors or senior council officers? Councillor Cardew.
Yeah, in relation to item 13.1, I'd like to declare that I have a conflict of interest in this matter as defined by section 175B of the Local Government Act 2009 as follows. I consider John Wilkinson as a friend and one who supported me during my election campaign. I will be dealing with this declared conflict of interest by leaving the meeting while this matter is discussed and voted on.
Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
So I declare that I have a material personal interest in item 16.5 as follows. My son stands to gain a benefit or suffer a loss depending on the outcome of Council's consideration of this matter. I will be dealing with this declared material personal interest by leaving the meeting while this matter is discussed and voted on.
Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Wilkes.
Yes, in relation to section 13.1 on the agenda, I too have a personal conflict of interest in the matter of John Wilkinson, and I'll be leaving the meeting as well while it is discussed as per section 175D.
Thanks, Councillor Wilkes. All right. Item 6. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting. Would someone like to move those minutes? Councillor Cardew, moved. Seconder. Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Now we come to our deputations and delegations. So we've got 2 presentations today. So could I ask you, Rex, to do yours first, if that's okay? Yep. So this is Rex Hutchinson, who many of you will know, representing the SAO group.
Do I do it here or do I?
Have you got a presentation, Rex?
Yep.
Yeah. So you might want to stand up there, Rex, and you'd be able to talk to the.
How do I change it? Okay. Thanks for inviting me here to talk today on behalf of the SAOs. As some of you are aware, we are attempting to navigate the Seven Sisters Trail through the Council's project management framework. And we're hoping the option analysis would be presented at this meeting for consideration. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We also wish to acknowledge the time and effort expended by both council staff and councillors in assisting us with this project through the project management framework, which has allowed us to get to Gate 2. Our involvement in the council's project management framework has highlighted extensive problems with this process, which we do not wish to discuss here. However, we'll be happy to discuss should council ever wish to review the process. Some of our concerns have been outlined in emails to council before.
You need to point it down at the laptop here. Down here, just point it towards the laptop.
Sorry, Rex.
How's that? No. On the button.
Amanda, just turn it off and on.
It doesn't matter.
Hang on, Rex. No, we should be able to sort it.
I've just moved manually on.
Yep, that's it. That's where we want to be.
If you just tell me when you want the slide to move.
Oh, okay.
Will bring Rex down here? Will that be?
It will be better for the live
talk
stream.
better? So what we might do, Rex, we might try it from this end. Sorry about that.
I'm just need a bit of exercise. I haven't ridden today. I hope that's better.
You can start again if you like, Rex. If you feel like you need to.
So I'll continue. We note the council's current road network includes 780 kilometres of sealed roads and 1,075 kilometres of unsealed roads, which service farms, businesses, houses located in TRC's local government area. We suggest none of these roads or associated footpaths ever went through the project management framework or anything like it. It's unclear why the Seven Sisters Trail has been captured by this process. In the remaining time, we wish to discuss, can you hit the thing? A way forward which will allow Council to apply for the share of funds recently made available. The federal government local roads and infrastructure program has made $41 million available through local governments in Queensland for the 2021 financial year for trails. The Seven Sisters Trail comprises of 3 distinct parts, 2 of which we believe are shovel ready. The Yungaburra, Lake Eacham, Pyramon, Malanda loop. This loop is located on quiet, mainly bitumen public roads, although there are areas of dirt roads such as Pinnacle Pocket. The only road not constructed is Williams Lane, leading to Yungaburra via the swing bridge over Pearson Creek. We can use that swing bridge because we've already talked to the Yungaburra Land Care Group and they are mowing Williams Lane for cyclists going through. The loop and associated offshoots cover a distance of 62 kilometres. Many cyclists, including your mayor, currently regularly ride these roads. It is possible for everyone to drive, walk, cycle, and if you want to, use your rickshaw on these roads on a regular basis. We suggest if the details of the loop were provided to the engineering staff, the work schedule could be prepared to cover signage, and council works an application lodged as part of the $41 million. Some of the loop does extend over state-controlled roads, and in an ideal world it would be good to seek funding to build gravel paths off the bitumen area of these roads. We are unsure if the infrastructure program extends to cover state-controlled roads. However, we suggest it should be an option that is explored. Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world, so it's important to be flexible and adaptable and try for funding that is available. The second part of the Seven Sisters Loop is the unconstructed roads north of the Barron River, which is Pelliceti, Liston, which is pictured there, and Dallop Road. So can you press the next one? Both Pellier and Liston roads are used by public utility to service power lines and telecommunication cables in the road reserves. Dallop Road is used extensively by the general public, fishermen, swimmers, bird watchers, cyclists, to access the cascades and the waterholes. Some of you would know it as, from a long time ago, it's been a really popular swimming spot for a long time. The distance from Atherton to the end of Dallop Road is approximately 10 kilometres, of which 2.6 kilometres are located in council-controlled roads and 0.6 kilometres are contained in a state-controlled road. Over time, we have limited discussion with the 3 adjoining landowners that abut these various roads, and we also listened to the presentations at the public meeting on the 22nd of June 2020. As outlined in the minutes, David Nasser, who is on Pellier Road, is not particularly concerned about cyclists. It is concerned about the spread of weeds, especially sedge and rat's tail. David's for the project. Frank Rockley, Liston Road, never objected to cyclists using that road. He didn't express any objections at the meeting, however was concerned about the engineering in any proposed pathways built. Peter Reeves in Dallop Road has never objected to cyclists using Dallop Road, and he's a strong supporter of the 760 cycleway. From our discussions with Ken Golby, TRC's Senior Land Protection and Biosecurity Officer, we understand a well-constructed, maintained pathway will assist in holding the spread of weeds. Fences to control the movement of animals and people will also assist in the spreading of weeds. And this is what is done down south in New Zealand. Based on adjoining owners' feedback and expert advice, it would appear possible to build a trail from Atherton to the Cascade and Waterhole in the Barron River. Such a trail would not only benefit trail users, it will also benefit the public utilities, Ergon and Telstra, who need access to the infrastructure day and night, and also assist in not spreading weeds. We suggest if the details of these roads were provided to the council's engineering staff, and one-on-one meetings could be arranged with the 3 adjoining landholders, to finalise any outstanding issues and find out exactly what they would like, a work schedule could be prepared and application lodged to access part of the $41 million being made available for these type of trails. In essence, the above 2 discussed cycle loops are a copy of the Tolga QR loop, which was constructed by Council 4 years ago and proved very popular. You can go to the final slide. The third part of the Seven Sister Trail is the redecking of the old bridge, which is with the original Malanda Atherton Road and Nella Road. From the public meeting on the 22nd of June 2020, it was clear that there is some opposition to the redecking of the old bridge and the resurfacing of Nella Road from the adjoining landholders living in Nella Road and Moseley Road. We suggest there is not enough time to address the various issued roads, and if TRC wishes to access some of the $40 million made available in this financial year. We understand these matters will be addressed if we ever get to Gate 4 of the project management framework, and can be left until such time as Gate 4 is reached. In conclusion, that's it. Unprecedented times require bold, assertive actions, and the federal government, local roads and community infrastructure does create opportunities for local governments who are adaptable and flexible. The Seven Sisters project has been with Council since March 2019 and has extensive public support. As outlined above, much of it is shovel ready, can be constructed in the required time frame. The project will create jobs in the construction phase and ongoing employment as trail is used. Council has an opportunity to set a course which may deliver significant funds to the region, boost tourism and provide some long-term assistance to many tourism-related businesses which have been brought to their knees in their current recession. Thank you for your time. I think I've still got some time left. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, any questions for Rex? Dave Clifton?
Through the
Councillor
chair,
Clifton?
really, are we able to get a copy of your written submission, Rex?
Yes, I sent it before, we wrote this 3 weeks ago, I sent it to all the councillors at that stage on email, but I'll leave this here and you can just leave it with somebody and they can photocopy it, or I'll, if you
I've
want
got
it,
a photocopy
yeah, re-email it, it's fine.
Thank you.
Councillor Carters?
Yeah, but it's, you talk about putting another deck on the bridge going across the Barron. But from my understanding, there's not much there to put anything on.
I'll bow to your engineering staff, you had John Dream go out and look at it. There's 2 7-metre sections that need to be decked, that's it. I'm no engineer, they said they could do it for 60,000, in our budget we said 80. That's, John Dream's been an engineer for 45 years, he said there's an old bridge at Vagrant that you can put back on it. You need to look at his report, I haven't seen that report, that was a council report, it was internal. You will note that I said that there was no need to do the bridge. You know what, the money, go for the money that's there, go for what's easy. Every other council will be going for that money, so, I would just go for what was easy. You can fight for the bridge if you want to, it's probably not important.
The other question I'd like to ask you, Rex, is the construction of the cycle pathways and things, and the continued maintenance of it. Would SAOs be up for the maintaining of those cycleways, or would it fall back onto the council?
I think you need to be adaptable. When we talked to the Youngborough Land Care Group, they were happy to maintain Williams Lane. We also did a fundraising ride for them. I know some of the farmers in Moseley Road are not happy with council mowing their areas. I'm sure that if you ever built Nella Road, they probably wouldn't want council to mow it. And I'm sure that we could do what the Youngborough Land Care Group do and has a box with cyclists going through each day and drop some money in, or we do a fundraising ride for them. There is other ways. I don't know the complete answer. And you already have nearly 1,800 kilometres of road. We asked them for an extra 3. You already maintain most of the areas along those state control roads anyway. You already mow that. So there's not a lot of extra work. The Tolga-Kirai loop didn't create any more extra work for council. The 62 kilometres of the Youngborough Lake Each and Pyram on the Lander loop will not create any more work for council. Those roads are there. You don't even putting up the signs, the posts are already there. It'll be like the Kirai loop, you just buy the sign and put the sign up. You need to budget for a good website. You can't sell a secret, which is what you're doing with the Tolga-Kirai loop. But still, a lot of people are coming. There were 60 people up from Cairns doing the Kirai loop on Friday. There's people today that I know riding, that come up from Brisbane and riding. They're building a trail that's maybe in place now from Gladstone, connecting through Kingaroy and then going on to the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. So that's all existing using stock routes, secondary roads and some old railways. It's a huge industry. We can be part of it, or we can just, we can be part of it.
Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, just, Rex, I understand, God is coming next. It looks like the sticking point here is the Barron, crossing of the Barron.
Oh, we've only done a concept plan. It's a public road. I don't ask if I can ride past your place. So why we have to listen to every landowner on Moseley Road or Nella Road? It's a public road. It was always a public road. That's the missing link. That would be great to put Atherton to the Lander to Youngborough. The cyclists are not creating noise. They do have concerns, and they're legitimate concerns about weeds. I don't think their concerns about safety are legitimate. But I'm happy to just leave all that and let that go through a normal process. crossing the Barron, you know, any river crossing does create problems, but they're done every day. Main roads cross the rivers every day, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Rex, councillors? So we go Councillor Clifton, then Councillor Cardew. Huh?
Through the chair, Rex, when does the 41 million?
It's only in this financial year, so that's why it was imperative to do things that are achievable in this financial year.
You mean that this financial year ending,
Now,
it's ended already?
2021.
Oh, 2021, okay.
So it's, you need to, there's things that need to be done, you know. All they want is a schedule of works, which is why you go straight to your engineering section. But it needs to be, the schedule of works need to be put in, you need to get the funding, which at least you're having a go. At least you're not going to win Tesla if you don't have a ticket in the lottery. At least you put the ticket in, and if you get it, you need to be able to spend it and build it in that 12 months.
Councillor Cardew?
Yeah, Rex, from my understanding, part of your proposal includes up Barron Road, which is a single lane bitumen road, which is also B double track or route. How do you feel that's going to impact, you know, B doubles going up and down a single lane bitumen road with cyclists on?
I know that's a fair point. I ride that road regularly, and Rod probably has ridden that road. There's not a lot of...
You're talking about East Barron Road, okay?
Yeah,
You said Upper Barron.
Oh, sorry.
Upper Barron and East Barron, they're both used.
Yeah.
They're both the same, they're single track bitumen. Believe me, it is much, much safer being up there than on the Malanda Highway. There is B doubles that use it. Most people that are riding those roads on mountain bikes, especially if you're coming, you know, through from Atherton, you'll be on a mountain bike. So it's easy, you just go off the bitumen. It's not as a non-cyclist, you might see it as an issue, but as a cyclist, it's never been an issue. And even the road guys, you know, often ride those roads, so it's never been an issue. It's not perfect. In a perfect world, you would have a completely separate trail, but you know, it is what it is. This can be done quickly. You know, there's funding there. It's a way to get into the market. Like the same thing happens on the Tolbecura road. Trucks use those roads. That's just part of it. And even in New Zealand, the ATO, which is probably the most popular one of these trails built in the world now, they use logging roads coming out of the mountains, and so the logging trucks are with the cyclists, and there's thousands of cyclists doing that now. So it works. It doesn't seem to be a problem.
Just one more question, Rex. So that funding, is it dollar for dollar, or is it?
I haven't looked into it in depth, but I think it's. I think you'll get 100% funding, and you could probably put staff in there. I would have put staff in there, staff time. But that's something that you need to investigate. I know that you know, when we first started this, and we saw Shane Canoe's, you know, Kate Jones, who's the Minister of Tourism and State Development, really keen on this, and I'm sure we would have got all the funding that we needed. It wouldn't be ongoing maintenance problem. You still have that issue, but the construction would.
Very good. Thanks, Rex.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Rex. Thank you. Thanks, Bob. Bob Peever, everyone.
Hello everyone, everyone knows me. So, where do I push? So, okay. Thanks. Oh, but look, I got all these places where I click.
Oh, okay, you're right, thank you.
So I'd like to thank the Mayor, Rod Marty, for giving me the opportunity to present. I thank all the councillors that came along to our shed meeting. It was really good. And thank you to all the TRC staff, Cheryl Lee, Yvette, and all those who answered my customer requests. Council has been presented with two documents, concept approval on the 12th of March and the option analysis this month. The options analysis, the plural in options is misleading as we're only presented with one option. Council's project management framework ensures that all requests are assessed in an equitable and transparent way. As a resident and ratepayer, I'm grateful for this. It supports the best value for a ratepayer's money. As you know, a project advances in stages called gates. This proposal is at gate 1. Because of the complexity of this project, an option analysis is required. The document submitted is incomplete. The health benefits are non-specific. Is this particular trial the only and best way to achieve this? Economic benefits are essential, and examples are provided for New Zealand, Victoria, Tasmania and Western Australia. A variety of cycle options have existed here for mountain bikes for some time, such as the Tolga Kirai cycle loop. Oops, go back with that one. The Atherton Forest Mountain Bike Park, where there are 17 trails, and the Atherton Rail Trail for road bikes, a variety of options. Examples of economic benefits from here should be available and would be more relevant. There are no economic benefits for this particular project included. Purcell's Crossing. It's a historical crossing at the end of Dallop and Nella Road. You'll see there on the slide I've got 14 metres between those two spans. I didn't go in the water and measure it. I took that off the Council's GIS system and I checked it on Google Earth. The crossing proposed is here, and you can see there is nothing there, only some stone pitching, and hasn't been there for at least 50 years. It can be crossed through water immediately downstream, and that's where the cyclists come. You've got no hope of reading that. I was surprised to find this statement on page 10 of the document in the SAO's options analysis. It has been confirmed by TRC staff that this isn't a council asset. This speaks to the integrity of the document and why the project management framework is such an important process. This is from the town plan. Don't worry about the blue line, that's just my lack of skills with PowerPoint. It's based on the 1967 flood. It has a flood width of 346 metres at Purcell's Crossing. There are numerous historical newspaper articles about the flood damaging the bridge. The last local knowledge was that only the girders were left in 1956. There's a flood gauge on the Barron River approximately 4 kilometres upstream. The river levels are shown on the left hand side, and the blue in the graph is the height and the red is the volumes. The horizontal blue line is approximately the average normal river height. There are 7 years over 8 metres in 27 years. There are approximately 29 times in 27 years that it has exceeded 4 metres. This would be well over a low level crossing. Post on the right hand side, that's got that debris against it, is on the edge of where the crossing would come across. The red line shows the approximate height when that photo was taken. This is why a hydrological survey is so essential. One aspect of the SAO submission that they didn't complete was the whole of life costs. I can help them with that. The rule of thumb for whole of life cost is 4 times capital expenditure. In this case, the capital expenditure is listed as $481,220. Of course, this figure is a matter of opinion, an opinion that I don't agree with. However, using it as an example, the whole of life cost of TRC would be approximately $1,942,880. This whole of life cost is an essential longer term expenditure consideration for council. Even if the CEOs were successful in obtaining external funding, the whole of life burden would still be with council. Different types of assets have different whole of life factors. The web can help the CEOs with their calculations. This is from the Queensland Treasury, and it's essential in the making of informed decisions. I'm not providing an estimate for this project, just some ideas that could help. Cairns Regional Council recently awarded a $6 million contract for the construction of a cycling and pedestrian bridge over Bar Creek between Machoms and Holloway's Beach. The proposed bridge alignment within environmentally significant areas, which means construction will be subject to strict codes needed to mitigate and minimise any potential environmental impacts. This would also be the case at Purcell's Crossing. The low profile concrete bridge is 150 metres long and 3.5 metres wide. It's an artist's impression of it. And the SAO submission says no handrails and the proposal width is 3 metres. So the cost could be scaled down for an estimate at Purcell's Crossing. The TRC has its own example on the rails trail. The SAOs don't have the advantage of existing head walls or steel beams at Purcell's Crossing. These would be an additional cost. This deck with handrails cost approximately $70,000 some years ago. Of course, in today's money, that would be much more. This doesn't cover half the length at Purcell's Crossing, so to cover the whole length would be more than $140,000, plus the extra costs to allow for strict codes in place to mitigate and minimise environmental impacts. From the SAO's initial cost estimate to redeck the bridge on Dallock Road, they allowed $800,000 plus contingencies. This figure is grossly underestimated. This is only part of the cost. There would be design costs taken into account. This is an environmentally significant and flood-prone area, plus the headwalls and supporting structure. Also not included are other issues to be considered, such as toilet blocks and Nella Road challenges. So we received this letter from Council in 2003, and they decided to close says crossing there, but they're referring to 2 culverts to vehicular traffic in the interest of public safety. And the crossings they're talking about are rock crossings, very old crossings constructed out of rock. There's another crossing down closer to the river, and the outlet to it is already collapsed. The locals have adhered to their request for 17 years, and so that road is still open, but not to vehicular traffic. I'm not suggesting that bicycles will damage these structures. However, machinery for the construction of a crossing from Nella Road certainly will, and as could a tractor with slasher and other equipment for maintenance. The cost of these two crossings will have to be included in any option, any estimate for this option. TRC has a policy for letters of support, and they say that those conditions have to be met. As a ratepayer, they're all good conditions, however, there are two that really stand out. The first is that there be no current or future costs to be incurred by council. And the second is that the project must align to council's objective to adopt sound asset management frameworks and strategies according to broad sustainability principles and cost effectiveness. Even on the basis of these, as a ratepayer, I'd be reluctant to see this project go ahead. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. And Rex mentioned meeting at Al Road. I emailed to these in the past, but there's a copy of those minutes just to refresh your memory. And I'd like these minutes to be taken in as part of my presentation.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Are there any questions for Bob?
Thank you very much. No questions.
Thanks very much, Bob. Thank you. Item 8, there's no Merrill minute. Item 9, business arising actions out of the minutes of the previous meeting. Any business arising, councillors, from the minutes of the last meeting? No? Okay, thank you. Okay. 10, community planning and environment. Item 1, Ravensoe Millstream Country Club negotiated decision notice, development permit for material change of use. Do we have someone who could receive the officer's report and open it for discussion? Councillor Cardew? Councillor Hayden, seconded. Thank you. Those in favour? Carried. Councillor Cardew, would you like to?
No, I'll just open it up.
Councillor Hayden, and then Councillor Bilney after that.
So through the chair, the Millstream Country Club has to be commended for the charitable efforts for the local area, but is now going to have the ability to raise funds through a tourist park. So straight to the point, I would like to recommend the officers number 3 that they recommended to us, but with additional words added to it.
So you're proposing an amendment to number 3, item C,
Yep.
Councillor Hayden? Yep.
So what do we do?
Well, if you're proposing an amendment, we need to deal with that first.
Yep.
So we'll need to know what the amendment is.
Well, I just want to put with the added words of over a 24-month period.
Okay.
So no longer than 2 years. To be
Okay.
paid. I don't know how you actually write it.
I think it's up on the board there.
Putting it in there, it's okay.
Okay, so do we, councillor Hayden has added an amendment to officer's recommendation C, which captures the payment plan in 24 months, is that
Yep.
basically it? Yep. Do we have a seconder for councillor Hayden's amendment? Councillor Hodge? Thank you. Do we have any more discussion there, councillors, on this one? Sorry, councillor Bilney?
Through the chair, good morning, Chair. Excuse me. With this application for a material change of use, will it also change the zoning from sport and rec to category O, which is what a caravan park is zoned? And if so, what is the implication on any concessions currently being applied?
Thank you, Councillor, through the chair. With the material change of use application for these 6 RV sites, from a planning perspective, it's a material change of use application. It's an added activity in addition to the sporting club, to the golf club, and we have approved that. It doesn't change the zoning, it still stays general rural, but it allows for this activity to occur. From a rating perspective, we have very little control because ultimately it depends on the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, who are deciding on what land use category this falls into. Theoretically, there's 2 options here at the moment. The land is considered used as a club and not as a tourist park, as a principal use. Now, you would think that adding a very small number of RV sites will basically be classed as a secondary use and not change the current rating category. However, that's not a decision for myself or the council to make, for that matter. It's for the Department of Natural Resources to make a call on that. The other complicating factor is that because they add this extra use and they add these caravan sites, it actually may affect the valuation of the land, which is another way in which it may affect the rates.
Sorry, councillor Bilney again, please.
When I've read the report, it was suggested that the club currently uses an electric pump to increase its water pressure on the existing facilities. With the addition of an extra 6 caravan sites, there's going to be an obvious increase in the load on infrastructure, which is obviously what these charges are all about. How does council manage that as far as an infrastructure point of view?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, at the moment, the water access charge that the club pays is the one which is paid by everyone in this situation, so they don't have any particular discount to my knowledge. I think the situation that they have at the moment with the existing water supply is probably not ideal, but it does cater for what they have at the moment. 6 added RV sites are not a huge drain on the water supply as such, and it is very hard to make a determination at this point in time whether it will be deemed to be insufficient or not, the arrangement they have in place, because they rely on a pump and a tank in order to increase pressure for their operation.
Next, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hodge.
No, I'm happy, I'm fine.
You're right now? Yep. Councillor Clifton?
A point of clarification, are we discussing the whole nature of, or are we just discussing Councillor Hayden's modification?
Well, the motion relates to Councillor Hayden's amendment to C. However, the floor is open for for any question on the matter.
Thank you.
Council, is there any more discussion on this one before we go to the vote? Those in favour of Councillor Hayden's motion? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Item 10.2. Tablelands Community Housing Association request to waive all infrastructure charges. Could we have a councillor move that report to be received? Councillor Hodge, and seconded Councillor Cardew. Those in favour? Carried. All right, councillors. Sorry, Councillor Hodge.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I will be moving an amendment similar to the previous resolution, that will be adding in the exact same wording, which will be option C, that will implement an instalment plan, but it will be for a period of 24 months.
Okay, Councillor Hodge is proposing an amendment to item C that again captures the payment plan into 24 months. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cardew seconding that motion. Councillors, would anyone like to talk on this one? Councillor Bilney.
Through the chair, just a point of note on page 30. It talks about the 50% waived fee for RadCare. That decision come about initially, as I remember, was the second bedroom of those flats were considered to be really small and more in line with the study, and therefore the decision to reduce the charges was based on a one-bedroom unit. Is that fair to say, Chair?
So the chair, that was one consideration, I believe, that was discussed at that point in time.
Councillors, any more questions on this one? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Clifton?
I'm confused.
Yes.
So we're voting on the modification. We have yet to adopt the council's or reject the officer's recommendation. We've modified it.
We've made an amendment to the officer's one of the officer's recommendations.
Well, to the previous point, we didn't adopt one of either A, B, C or D. We modified C.
Correct.
And we voted on the modification.
Correct.
But we didn't adopt one of those four.
Correct. My understanding, Councillor Clifton, and I'll take advice from the CEO, is that once a councillor proposes an amendment to a proposed motion, council's obliged to deal with the amendment first. So we've dealt with the amendment in this case to recommendation C in both reports. We've dealt with an amendment to recommendation C, and then we voted on that. So therefore the motion and the amendment is adopted. Is that right?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the way I look at it, and I can see there's an argument on both sides, but I think the intent is very clear. The wording of Part C of the recommendation has been included in the amended motion, and that's been carried. So from my perspective, if you like, it defaults the deletion of A, B and D as options.
Well, I'd be prepared to accept that advice, because I would have, in the first instance, the Ravenshoe one, I would have voted for C. But I think that in future we need to be, I think we need to have a procedure, if it's not in our rules already, where we vote on the amendments, and that clears up what's in front of us, and then we vote on which of the ones we're choosing. Two separate votes, in my view, rather than an inferred vote. I think that would make it, because if I had, for example, in the previous one, not been willing to go to C and I wanted D, I would have been nipped in the bud and not had a chance to vote. I'd be voting on a different thing.
I think, thanks Councillor Clifton, I think the difficulty is the standing orders do state we've got to deal with an amendment to a motion first. So an amendment to a motion is like a subset of the greater motion. So when you vote on the amendment, you're actually also voting on that original motion, but with an amendment. Because an amendment can't stand alone. You can't vote on amendment unless it's attached to a parent motion.
Mr Mayor, I can probably assist councillors with this. We're currently revising the standing orders, and those revised orders will be coming to the August meeting for further consideration by council. But if there's any doubt, we can clarify that point in the revised standing orders. The other point I'd like to make is about these first two reports in general anyway, dealing with infrastructure charges. The reason it's coming to council with 4 options, which is not my preference. I prefer that officers make a single recommendation, but we haven't had a policy to guide any recommendation that officers may make to council. So what we're doing at the moment is preparing an infrastructure charges policy that will also be presented to the August council meeting, and that will provide clarity. So some of these requests may not need to come to council, and if they do, the recommendation will be in accordance with what's in the policy. So I think from next month onwards, after the adoption of that policy, we'll be in a much clearer position.
Well, just for the clarity, Mr Mayor, is in the Ravenshoe situation then, we have decided to have that the charges stand, but they will be paid via an instalment plan over a period of 2 years.
Correct.
And for this one, we haven't yet voted. But when we do vote, it will be the same situation of we're voting for an instalment plan that the charges are not waived, the instalment plan will be over a period of 2 years.
That's correct, and that's on the board through you, Mr Mayor.
That's correct, and my notes might be wrong, but I thought we had voted.
Oh no, well, perhaps we have.
We did.
Hence my state of confusion.
Yep. Yeah, so we have adopted it, yes.
Okay.
Councillor Hodge?
Yes, I understand what Councillor Clifton is saying. They're the sort of the new way of doing it. The old way used to be you have an amendment, then you vote on the amendment, and then the chair would say, well, that's passed. Now the amendment becomes a motion, and then you vote on the new motion again. That's how they used it. That was the older way. That which is the new.
If I just may, because I know we have an audience as well. I think the older way, I think what CEO Bob Owen's saying, is we have an obligation to make sure that the people who are looking at us know exactly what we're agreeing to. Exactly what we're agreeing to. And those previous processes for me were confusing, and I would think that the people sitting at Ravenshoe would say, what did I actually decide? I think that future decisions must have, for my feeling, have that sense of really clear, a real clarity with them. That's a statement of opinion.
Yeah, point taken, Councillor Clifton. Yep, thank you. All right. Sorry.
Just through the chair though, it actually doesn't change the motion that was put up, because they would have come to council and asked and made negotiations of how long they would take to pay it off. So we more or less gave them the 24 months, or I did, sorry. So because it doesn't actually tell you how long they can take to pay it off. So it would have had to come back to council anyway and ask. If you read the number C, you know, council's report, so we didn't really change it, we just gave them a time frame.
Thanks, councillor Hayden, thank you. All right, item 10, item 3, TRC Community Grant Program, January to June 2020 and 2019-2020 overview. Would someone like to remove that be received? Councillor Vilney and seconded Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Would someone like to get the ball rolling on this?
I don't have a problem with it.
No comment on this one. Do we have a mover of the officer's recommendation? Councillor Cardew, seconded Councillor Vilney. Those in favour? Carried. All right. Item 11, Chief Executive Officer. No reports there.
Next one, Rob.
Radif, did I miss one?
4.
10.4.
Sorry. It's not on my run sheet. Sorry, councillors. Yeah, item 10.4. The Radif Grant Program, 1 January to 30 June 2020. Do we have a mover to receive the report? Councillor Cardew, seconded Councillor Hodge. Those in favour? Thank you, carried. Councillors, this one?
Yes, could I just ask our staff just to go through those, the ones that have been approved, please, just so everyone understands what the benefits are, if you don't mind?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Through the Chair, in this last round, in the last 6 months, we were able to fund six projects. So the first one was the Bella Capella Community Choir, and that was funding to help them put together an online choir, and that was in response to the COVID-19 situation. And obviously that's underway at the moment, and that involves quite a significant number of people in the community in rehearsing and putting together their online choir. The Eacham Historical Society was an application from Duncan Ray to research and put together an exhibition regarding the aerated water and cordial manufacturers of the region. It was originally intended to be a display at the agricultural shows, but obviously that wasn't possible, so the application was amended so that they could have a display in the window at the Millimiller Museum, and that's underway at the moment too. So that's actually quite an interesting and significant part of our history in the region. Gordon Grimwade is putting together a catalogue which we've asked will be made publicly available about the art and photography at Rocky Creek during World War II. So we're looking forward to being able to make that publicly available, and that will go on the council website once it's completed. Atherton Web Design, as it says, it's for an online exhibition, and we haven't seen yet obviously what that's going to involve, but that project is also underway, and it's a bit of a different arts project, and I think that's the benefit of the Regional Arts Development Fund, is that we can fund a really broad church of arts projects. The Malanda Chamber is for their murals to go on the doors of the Majestic Theatre. So that's been quite a long time in the pipeline, that project. They've undertaken a huge amount of community consultation and done the initial designs. There's been significant community support for that project. It is a heritage listed building, so there's a fair bit of homework that the group had to undertake to get their approvals in place. And so I think that's a project that will really add to community identity for Malanda, and the Chamber were very pleased to have the support for that project. And the final one is another mural project, which is for a community group from Yungaburra. They were very keen to record the timber getting history of Yungaburra in some way, and they opted for a mural. They wanted to go on the Yungaburra Community Hall, which again is heritage listed, so there was no chance to have the mural externally, so they going to erect that mural internally inside the community hall. Again, that we had to hold off giving them the funds yet, because we still have to make sure that they've got heritage exemption approval, and they are just finalising their community consultation, which again has been quite extensive. So it's quite a good range of projects there, and quite a good range across the community as well. So I'm happy to take any further questions if you want more detail, Councillor, on any of those.
Happy with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillors, any more questions on this one?
Just one probably quick one is that there is a balance left of the 8,648 that will carry forward to
yes, well, this is obviously it's a partnership with Arts Queensland, and so we apply to them to be allowed to carry forward that surplus in our annual bid. We do an annual bid for funding, and we put that up to be allowed to carry that forward. So it's not necessarily our surplus. A significant part of that is Arts Queensland's surplus, but we have applied to carry it forward to this year, yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Councillors? Would someone like to move, Councillor Hodge, moving the officer's recommendation? Yeah, a seconder. Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 11, Chief Executive Officer. No reports there today. Item 12, 12.1. Finance report as at the 30th of June 2020. Would someone like to move that the officer's report be received? Councillor Wiltz and Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, councillors, the floor's open. This one. Would someone like to move the officer's report? Councillor Cardew, moving the officer's report. Councillor Hodge, seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Item 13, wet waste, 13.1, wet waste loading facility. Would someone like to move that the report be received and open?
They have to go.
Ah, sorry. Thank you. Councillor Cardew and Wiltz leaving the room. Yeah, would someone like, Councillor Hodge would like to move the report be received. Councillor Clifton seconding. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Clifton.
I'd like to advance an amendment to the document we have in front of us to remove item 1. That is, consider at the first quarterly review of the capital work program. That section I'd like to have removed from our consideration for this time.
Okay, Councillor Clifton's proposing an amendment. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Hodge. Do we have any comment Sorry, Councillor Clifton.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment that I consider although this is not to be considered now, it's an item referred to our first quarterly review of capital works. I'd really like to see a detailed analysis presented to us at that time, which looked at the reasons for wanting to put and the alternatives to wanting to spend $50,000 at it. Information that I've seen yet, I don't consider to be sufficient for my judgment, and I know although we're being asked for the first quarter review, which is in September, I wanted to put across the reasons for my proposing that amendment. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Clifton.
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
What I would be recommending, Mr Mayor and Council, is that it's not dealt with as part of the quarterly review, but in fact it's dealt with as a separate report, so that it doesn't get mixed in with the rest of the capital review, and that Council can have a standalone report to consider that specific issue.
Thank you. I appreciate
Very good,
that.
thank you. Councillors, is there any other comment on this one? So those in favour of the amended motion? So that's carried, thank you. And do we have councillors like to deal with the next motion? There's two motions there.
Oh, Mr Mayor, the amended motion has become the motion.
No, I think Councillor Clifton's amendment was to, at this point in time, is to remove the first one.
Correct. Correct.
And then we still have number 2
Correct.
to deal with.
All right, then, Mr Mayor, if I can just make a correction. That amendment should be that Council delete part 1 of the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, I thought that's what we said, but
Yeah, I didn't actually say that. I'm sorry, Mr Mayor.
okay.
I think you did.
Yeah, I thought you did, but yeah.
And then Jackie, through you, Mr Mayor, if we can just amend what's on the board now to take out part 1. So, Mr Mayor, if you were satisfied with that, that's now the motion under consideration, as on the board.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, we might want to read that out just so members of the public online can understand what Council's considering.
Yep, so I can't read that there, so I'll have to read it here.
Would you like me to read it, Mr Mayor?
Yeah, that'd be good.
My eyes are wonderful at this distance.
Yep.
The motion before Council for consideration now is that Council advise Wilkinson's Blacksmiths that Council has no contractual obligation to purchase the Tampa Bar.
So, councillors, that's the motion under consideration now. Would a councillor like to move that motion?
I'll move that motion.
Councillor Clifton moving, Councillor Hodges seconding. Any comments, Councillor Clifton?
It's a very detailed matter, this issue of the Tampa Bar and Wilkinson's Blacksmiths. It involved a situation which has been confusing to both Mr Wilkinson and to Council in relation to a constructed piece of equipment for which the instructions were not clear, and secondly, no council purchase order was committed. I think the council has taken, as I understand, a strong legal advice which says that we have no contractual obligation, and I understand, and I would ask, if I may, Mr Mayor, the CEO to give us an indication of what would happen, what the ramifications of the council taking a decision outside the appropriate purchasing arrangements might be.
Yeah, to you, through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Clifton, for the question. Council's got very strict obligations when it comes to purchasing because we're using public funds. The local government regulation sets out the purchasing requirements for a medium-sized contractual arrangement, which is the case here, and council must invite 3 written quotes. Now, council's position is because we never requested the purchase of this item of equipment, we never invited quotes. If council today were to decide to purchase the equipment, my opinion is that council would be in breach of the requirements of the legislation because we haven't followed the requirements and invited 3 quotes, sorry. So to me it's very clear.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Clifton and Councillor Hodge.
I think the circumstances of this matter are really unfortunate, and I think that once this matter is resolved, whichever way it's resolved, it will clear the air for further discussion and negotiations to take place, should that be considered desirable. But I support the motion to clear the legal air.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge?
Yes, as most councillors are aware, that I was very uneasy with this process and how it was, what's going on with it, because it's been going on for a long time. And as in the documentation provided in the agenda, there was one particular email that came from the former deputy at the time, and it was dated the 5th of April last year, 2019. And it says, I just want to confirm, this is to John Wilkinson, I just want to confirm that as I committed to you when we spoke last, I have sent an in-depth email to our CEO Justin Collins after we spoke on the phone, and earlier this week I met with him to discuss your concerns. In essence, the discussion relayed on the comments that you made to me on the telephone conversation. And she finishes by saying, I do sincerely hope that a resolution can be found that is acceptable to both parties. So I really hope in the near future that can come to fruition. And that's all I'd like to say that night.
Councillors, any more comment on this one? Okay, those in favour of the motion? Carried. Thank you. 14, there's no notice of motion.
Just need to get...
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, item 14, there's no notice of motion. Item 14.
I have one. Sorry. Is this the... Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. Item 15, business without notice. Councillor Hodge?
Yes, I have one to put through, please, Mr Mayor. It's to do with community project requests. I think it's all up on the board for everyone to see, and everyone's got a copy of it. Basically, it's I'll read it. It says that council will impose a moratorium on any new community project requests, in brackets, as defined in council's community project request policy, for a period of 12 months, including council community project requests effective immediately. And 2, impose a moratorium in A to permit further work on council's strategic planning for council's community facilities and assets across the region, and B, to allow for completion by council of the planning and or construction of existing community projects, and C, to note that council is not in a financial position to undertake additional projects or development of new community assets at this time, as council realigns its priorities and its budget. And 3, review the need for this moratorium in 12 months' time. And finally, 4, exclude the following categories of projects from the moratorium. A, projects that are currently under consideration by council and which are in the planning stages under council's project management framework, and B, projects including capital works that have already been endorsed or identified by adoption by the council prior to the adoption of the moratorium. I move that motion.
Thanks, Councillor Hodge. Do we have a seconder for this? Councillor Wiltz seconding. Any comments, councillors? Councillor Hayden?
Could I ask the definition between renewals and upgrades, because with the COVID-19 stimulus packages that are out there, there's quite a few clubs that are putting in for funding. So through the chair, would I be able to ask an officer that question?
Yes, by all means. So that would be... sorry.
And I have to apologise, I was slightly distracted doing something else, so could you please repeat that question for me?
So just for the record of this, would you be able to give us the definition between a renewal and an upgrade, renewals and upgrades? Because I can have a chook pen, but I might want the Taj Mahal, pull the chook pen down and build a Taj Mahal because it's renewal. So what is a renewal or an upgrade?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Hayden, through the chair. A renewal is basically an activity where we bring an asset that was previously installed back to its original intent, level of service and design. If we do an upgrade, which sometimes goes hand in hand with a renewal, we actually change the design intent of the asset in question. So it might provide a higher level of service, or we might extend the original life that was intended for that asset beyond its original scope, and things like that. So an upgrade actually increases the service delivered through the asset. The renewal is basically bringing it back to its original intent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any more questions?
Should there be something in this, right?
Councillor Carter.
Sorry, right through the chair. Should there be something in here that suggests that, like, if there's something that comes up that's just, something out of the ordinary, that it can be brought back to council, or will that just happen as it happens?
Look, I might respond to that first and then take advice from officers, but it's always been my view that, should officers be presented with an idea or a concept that they think it's absolutely imperative that council look at it quickly, they think it's so important that we need to deal with it, I'd like to have officers to have that discretion to do that, to bring it to this table. If it's something that's got to be dealt with sooner rather than next year. Is that possible with this existing motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe it is. In this day and age, we have to be nimble, we have to be agile. We haven't got a crystal ball, we don't know what's coming up in 9 months' time, for example. It might be an extraordinary project that appears over the horizon, which is well worth supporting, and that would be the subject of a separate report to council, notwithstanding the moratorium. However, if I can add to that, I would see that as being the exception rather than the rule.
Excuse me, through you. I think what Councillor Hayden is saying, that there is, through this COVID-19 process, through subsidies, there is ways for local community community organisations to say get $20,000 to paint the clubhouse or something like that. And I think that's what she's really thinking, that would still be okay. If they got a grant for 20 grand to paint something that was costing nothing to council, I think that would be okay under this. Is that correct? Could I put that through to you, Bob?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Matters like that where, for example, we would have had to spend maintenance funds from our budget, and if a community group got a grant to do that, I'd suggest council would be mad not to look at it. It's a very technical term, isn't it?
That's fine.
Question.
All right, councillors. So those in favour of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Business without notice. I believe we have a second motion regarding the change to the ordinary meeting, the October meeting, because it will clash with the LGAQ conference.
Would you like me to read that out, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, that'd be good, thanks.
You're correct, Mr. Mayor. The October meeting is scheduled for Ravenshoe, would still be scheduled for Ravenshoe, just a week later than was originally planned. So the motion before council is that council change the ordinary council meeting scheduled for Thursday the 22nd of October 2020 to Thursday the 29th of October 2020 and advertise this in the local newspapers and on council's website.
Thank you. Do we have a mover of this motion? Councillor Cardew, Councillor Wiltz seconding. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Okay, now we move to 16, which is confidential items. So could we ask those people who can't stay to leave, please? We offline, Jackie?
Not yet, you're moved to come
Ah, of course.
close the
Sorry.
meeting.
All right, councillors, can I have a mover that we go from open session to confidential session? Councillor Bilney, seconded Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Thank you. Carried. Okay. Thanks very much. Okay, councillors, item 16.1, 2020-2021 bitumen reseal program. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hayden, seconded Councillor Bilney. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 16.2, 2020-2021 regional sewer relining program. Do we have a mover, the recommendation? Councillor Cardew, seconded Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 16.3, regional collection and disposal of ferrous metal, extension of contract. Do we have a mover? Councillor Wilts and Councillor Bilney, seconding. Those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 16.4, compliance monitoring waste sewerage treatment plant sites. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hodge, seconded Councillor Hayden. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Hayden's leaving the room. Item 16.5, gravel road maintenance, southern locality. We have a mover, Councillor Wilts. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cardew. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Could we just get Annette to come back in, please, Mark?
Thanks, John.
Thanks very much. Look, that brings an end to our July meeting. I'd just like to say that tomorrow week, Friday the 31st of July, we will be having a special meeting to adopt our 2021 budget. So that will be happening Friday week. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and the CEO has just reminded me from that meeting next Friday, the 31st, the meeting will be open to the public. It will be limited seating because we still have to comply with COVID. But if you get here early, you should get a seat.
Have up to 15 members.
Yeah, so we can have up to 15 members of the public, I'm advised, in this room next Friday, not tomorrow, next Friday. Okay, thank you very much. I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kev shared.
Sweet.